In this video, sponsored by Storyblocks, I'm going to show you how to get this psychedelic look using After Effects. I created this artwork in Procreate and then exported it as a PSD to tidy it up in Photoshop before importing into After Effects. First, I'll quickly explain the animation happening within the mushroom, and then I'll go through how to build this breathing color distortion that goes over the whole animation from scratch. In our main mushroom comp, we've got a different composition for each of his different objects. His head, his eyes, the inside part here, and then for his shirt as well. The head bobbing up and down is done with 2 position keyframes alternating between up and a down position at 1 second intervals just to keep it easy. And then some basic easy easing applied to them. It also rotates from -1 degree to 1 degree between these 2 positions just to make the animation a little less robotic. The neck bending was done with the puppet pin tool. I put 1 at the base of the neck and then 1 at the top of the neck where it attaches to the head. The top one animates down with 2 position keyframes, the same as the head. And I've added an alpha inverted matte here to just cover myself in case the neck pops up above where the head should be. I don't often use the puppet pin tool when animating because I find it can deform your animation in some unpredictable and ugly looking ways. But here, it works well because the movement is pretty subtle. I animated this looping inside of the mushroom by creating a rough ellipse with our pen tool, with no fill and a stroke, and then animating its shape path shrinking down into the middle with 2 keyframes. I selected Preserve Underlying Transparency over here. That means that this layer will not be visible over anything that's transparent underneath. It's like choosing everything below it in the layer stack as an alpha matte. I also added a rough and edges effect to match the rough brush that I used to draw this in Procreate. Then I just duplicated this a hell of a lot of times and offset them so they'd continue for about 5 seconds. These waving lines that are in the head and neck are all just shape layers with a stroke and 2 wave warp effects applied. If we solo one layer, we can see that the first wave warp applies this nice sort of repeating sine wave, and the second one adds a bit more randomness to the wave by adjusting and messing with a few of the settings to get the effect you want. A different speed, width, and phase are all good for that. And then the same rough and edges effect to again match the Procreate brush. I then duplicated that layer and adjusted the shape and wave warp settings on each one slightly to get them to be a little different from each other, but not too different so that they cross over and overlap. I've got an animated texture over the whole thing in this main comp as well, so check out my looping textures tutorial for my process on creating that. As well as adding this background overlay texture, I also added some additional footage thanks to this video's sponsor, Storyblocks. Storyblocks is an always growing library of HD and 4K stock footage, photos, illustration, animation, sound effects, music, green screen, and even After Effects templates. With the monthly membership, you get unlimited downloads. Unlimited. Absolutely unlimited. No limit. As much footage as you can possibly click to download, you can download it, save it, use it in any project you want for any purpose, personal, commercial, whatever you like. They're all royalty free. It's like a buffet of footage. There's an incredible range of footage for any project you could imagine. Their clips aren't just the normal cheesy, stock, corporate nonsense. Unless of course you're into that, which I absolutely am. I legitimately had heaps of ideas for future projects just browsing through all this footage and thinking of what I could use to make with it, how I could, possibly deform and manipulate these pieces of footage to, make something funny or interesting. There's loads of great stuff. I experimented with this animation using these very groovy, abstract, psychedelic paint backgrounds because this type of stuff would be way too difficult to film myself. It would take so much time to set it up, collect and buy equipment, but with a Storyblocks membership, I don't have to think about any of that. I just go on, I search for trippy, psychedelic backgrounds, I download whatever I think will look cool, give it a try, find out what looks good, and then invoice the client. If you're making video content professionally, it's probably only a fraction of your hourly rate for a month of membership. And with unlimited downloads, you can go absolutely wild and add absolutely anything, all sorts of crazy stuff to your videos that will leave your clients speechless. Absolutely speechless. Check out the link in the description for more. To get that breathing color warping effect across the whole animation that really sells that psychedelic edge to it, let's create a new comp containing this mushroom main comp by selecting it over here in the project panel and dragging it into the new composition window. And let's rename that mushroom top. We're going to create this effect by distorting each individual color channel of this main composition. To do that, let's add the effect Shift Channels. At the moment, all the color channels are set in their regular way. The red is red, the green is green, the blue is blue. Let's leave red at red. Let's take green from green to full off and blue to full off as well. Now this comp is only showing the red color channel, which in itself can look pretty cool. Let's make 2 duplicates of this comp with Control D. And on the second one, let's change the red to full off and the green to green. And on the next one, the red to full off and the blue to blue. Now we've got a layer for each of our color channels, red, green, and blue, R, G, and B. If we change the blending mode of the top 2 comps from normal to add, it creates a full color version of our original comp underneath. But if we just select and move any of the layers, you can see that they are all separated, which puts us in a very good place to add some neat effects. One thing we can do is create some chromatic aberration, which is the effect where a camera lens splits the color channel. To do that, let's zoom in really close, and with our top comp selected, let's nudge it a few pixels to the left using our arrow tools, and the one in the middle a few pixels to the right. Now you can start to see the very edges, we get a bit of purple and a bit of green coming through here. And the further apart you push these, the more severe the effect gets. Alright, that's enough of me, let's not go crazy. For the main warping, let's add a turbulent displace effect to our bottom comp. And as soon as we add that, now you can see it taking shape. I'm going to tweak the size and the amount to where I want it to be at its maximum distortion. Now by default, this distortion doesn't animate. So we're going to animate the evolution property. To do that, we're going to alt-click the stopwatch next to evolution, and we're going to type in the expression time times 200. And that will just keep increasing that value indefinitely. With a lower number down here, it'll slow down. With a higher number, it'll go much faster. But I think 200 works good for us. Now to give this distortion a psychedelic sort of breathing effect, we're going to keyframe the amount property. So 1 second in, let's keyframe the amount at 30, and then at 0 seconds in, let's change that down to 0. So now we're back to 0 distortion on this animation. And let's just copy those keyframes every second or so. And let's add some easy ease with F9. And now we've got 1 color channel breathing. And to duplicate that, we simply copy this effect and paste it to our other layers. Now we've applied it to the bottom 2 layers, but you'll see they're warping in pretty much the exact same way. To change that, we go down into our evolution options and change the random seed to any number other than 0. And now you can see it's splitting up more severely. As long as these numbers are different from each other, they will warp in completely different ways. And this is also warping our background texture in our main layer, which looks a little bit funky. So let's go inside there, copy that, and paste it on top here. Now you can warp all 3 of these color channel comps if you want, or just 2. The more you apply to, the more of this psychedelic effect kind of can get out of control. So you can always go back in and dial down the amount on these keyframes from say 30 to 20 and see how that looks then. It's also a bit of a stylistic choice, but I've added an adjustment layer with the post-rise time set to 12.5 to just give it a bit more of a lower frame rate. And there we have some psychedelic breathing animation. Thanks again to Storyblocks. Check the link in the description to find out more about Storyblocks' video. I've made a short playlist of some related videos that I think you'll enjoy if you've made it this far. I'll see you in the next video, and please consider subscribing if you'd like more of these videos every week.